minimize that. No, I don't want to minimize that. Okay, so according to YouTube, at least I hope according to YouTube, let me get my camera up here. I should be live according to Streamlabs. Let me see here. There we are. And according to YouTube, I'm live. Beautiful. Check my chat. Hello. And let's talk about fascism. Okay. I need to pop out the chat and minimize that. This one comes over here. Go back to live chat. Full screen my Streamlabs. Or not full screen my Streamlabs, rather. You are being an irritation today, computer. No, I do not want to full screen my chat either. Okay. Let's see what we've got going on here. According to YouTube, I am very much live. There is one person watching, which would be me. So I guess I'm screeching into the void again, as usual. That's that. That is actually on the wrong screen, so that needs to come over here. Sorry about this, folks. It's my first day back. It's almost like the curse of the were-virgin has struck me. So, let's see if we can't put my pretty face on camera for you. Lock that one in. That's not being seen. And kill the thumb. Beautiful. Good morning, folks. It's nice to be back. I had a pretty damn good vacation. Student of history. YouTube does not tell me much at all. No, it does not. Thanks for being here, buddy. Let me see. I think I've got all my setups correct. Move that down and lock that in place. And if I do that, I need to do this. Okay, there's my thumb. Let's move that up a bit more. There we go. Now I can kill that. And my second screen. Beautiful. Okay, so while I was off, quite a few things happened. I renovated my studio. I'm still in the process of decorating. Got a few things sorted out. You can see Aquaman hanging out behind me. Yes, Aquaman is in fact my favorite DC superhero. I make no bones about it. Yeah. Anyway. And of course, YouTube is already hiding messages. No, I didn't want to hide that. I wanted to show that. Damn it. My apologies, student. Your message about... Oh, Bezic. I was just going to say, I was thinking just before I started the stream that I wanted to start by wishing my friend Bezic well. Clearly you're not doing too well, making dying noises. Student of history, I do apologize. Would you kindly repost what you just said? YouTube, for whatever reason, is hiding... well, it didn't immediately show that last chat that you sent about something to do with Romanians. Probably because of the language that was used. If you want to use the word F, I recommend FK or FKN, at least early on in the show. I guess YouTube is getting a little more censorious than usual. Speaking of things that should be dealt with differently than they normally are, let's have a look at the actual definition of fascism, shall we? That will be on the screen. Hello. So, fascism, sometimes using an initial capital letter, is a governmental system led by a dictator. Yeah. Having complete power, true. Forcibly suppressing opposition and criticism. Yes, but you don't need to be a fascist to do that. There are other forms of government where opposition is suppressed, as is criticism. Student of history says he's only here for a little bit. He's going to be off to his local rear-ending the Romanians for the Garlic Festival. Excuse me. The Garlic Festival. That actually sounds like something I would absolutely love to go to. I don't know why that's feck the Romanians, but okay. Anyway, moving along. It's good to have you here no matter how long you're here. And I do appreciate the slight edit to your language. This is essentially generic authoritarian, yeah. The difference being that because it's a lefty who came up with this, I like how it's listed as middle school level definition as well, because this is just indoctrinating at this point. But one of the things with fascism, which you will also see with communism, is that all industry, commerce, etc. is controlled by the government. Communism is a fascist system. Go figure. And of course, there's some silliness about Mussolini. I personally don't really care about Mussolini. Mussolini was a style of fascism. So, as I was saying, quite a few things happened while I was gone. Student of history says because vampires don't like garlic, they're for fiddlesticks to be. Okay, now I understand where you're coming from. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe vampires don't like garlic. I suppose that's a possibility. Not all vampires detest garlic, but then again, not all vampires like blood either. But then again, if you do a little bit of studying of folklore, you discover rather rapidly that almost every culture has some form of vampirism or something similar to it. You could even tie the Native American Wendigo into that particular mythos. Now, just to move along, here are the results from the Swedish general election. I get a kick out of the fact that it's still called the Riksdag, but hey, what are you going to do? That's their parliament, by the way. When you punch this word into Google Translate, it kicks back parliament. But what's really interesting is when you kick in the word Reich, you get rich, which is, I don't think, quite what... Oh, there's YouTube hiding things again. Nobody cared about Mussolini. Hitler didn't care about him until the Greeks fiddled them back into Albania. Okay. That's a period of history I'm not super familiar with, so I will take your clearly more educated opinion. But just to come back over here, the likely outcome of the election is that Ulf Kristersson, the leader of the moderate party, will become prime minister. However, the big concern is that, or the big concern for the left, is that Sweden has somehow started to move towards a right-wing fascist state, which of course is absolute silliness, because right-wingers aren't fascists any more than left-wingers are necessarily fascists. And, let's see, the Green Party, that's not helpful. It's a political party in Sweden based on green politics. Well, what are green politics? Generally, in the West, we assume when someone says they're a green politician, they mean the silly electrical stuff with cars that can't be powered with anything but coal. Let's see here. Sweden's former campaign period was met with issues regarding the accession of Sweden to NATO due to the 2022. Yeah, okay, blah, blah. Parliamentary. Here we are. Exit polls showed that S and Confidence and Supply parties had a tight lead against the right-leaning bloc, the SD, M, KD, and L. During the counting of the preliminary results and later on, Sweden's election authorities said that the right-leaning bloc overtook the left-leaning bloc by 3 seats, which means it was close. How close? We should be able to find out from that Riksdag graphic. So, I'm going to assume that these are the left-wingers and these are the right-wingers. If there's a Swede in chat, which I'm hoping Prime Night will pop in at some point, Student of History says, the failed invasion of Greeks, tilde the Italians failed, Greeks invaded Albania, Daddy Hitler had to come in and unfiddle the issue, delaying Barbarossa, the USSR invasion. Okay. Operation Barbarossa was when the Germans went into the USSR, if I recall correctly. So essentially, Sweden appears to have gone somewhat right. In fact, there's a headline here. The Swedish right opposition inches ahead in election cliffhanger. This is from Reuters, so grain of salt. The moderates Kristersson, who is, that's Ulf Kristersson, who's expected to be the prime minister, has allied with the Sweden Democrats. As far as I understand from talking to Prime Knight, Sweden Democrats is the right-leaning party. Or a significant section of the right bloc, as they say here. Go away, window. I don't want you running. You'll kill my frames. In further evidence of a shift to the right, the anti-immigration Sweden Democrats. Now, I'm willing to bet the Sweden Democrats, the SD party, are actually not anti-immigration so much as anti-uncontrolled immigration or anti-illegal immigration, as most conservatives are. I don't think there's a single centrist conservative. I mean, if you get out to the extremes, obviously you're going to find conservatives who are completely anti-immigration. I don't believe the Sweden Democrats are. But hey, if you've got people running around in your country throwing hand grenades around more often than you see machete attacks in New York, maybe you'd want to do something about it. So SD is set to overtake the moderates as Sweden's second biggest party and the biggest in the opposition. A historic shift in a country that has long prided itself on tolerance and openness. Yeah, how's that working out for you, Sweden? Now, on to the, of course, Italian general election, and this horrible, horrible fascist. So, this was a snap election held in Italy on the 25th of September, after the fall of the Draghi government. The 2022 Italian government crisis was a political event in Italy that began on the 14th of July. It includes the events that followed the announcement of Giuseppe Conte, leader of the Five Star Movement and former Prime Minister of Italy, that the M5S would revoke its support to the national unity. That should be somewhere down here, but I'm not particularly concerned about that. What I'm concerned about is that Italy still uses first past the post, which is absolutely terrible. That means that, for example, looking at this chart here, if you've got 5 choices, you can have as little as 22%, 21% of the populace favoring, say, John Citizen here. John Citizen gets in. John Citizen could be an absolute asshole. Let's see. Student of history. The Swedish right. We have a self-preservation instinct. The left. Fascists. 3. Yeah. Let me just put my face back on screen to agree with you there. Yeah. For some reason, protecting yourself is seen as something that you shouldn't do by the left. Whatever the scale is, protecting yourself, your children, your family, your people, your country. But we're all supposed to protect the environment. These people's priorities are just absolutely messed up. Prime Knight. Hello, Prime. I was just talking about you. Were your ears burning? Let's see. Student of history. If you're talking immigration which is controlled and the immigrants are integrated successfully, nobody's going to complain as long as all is going well. Yeah, exactly. Generally, when you have legal immigration, what you have is a group of people who want to join the culture of the country they're entering. For example, I want to be American because I don't like the culture of entitlement that the welfare state has created in my fellow Newfoundlanders. It's unfortunate. It was actually part of the campaign process for Joey Smallwood back before we joined Confederation. The major selling point for Confederation with Canada from Joey Smallwood was the welfare system. How the dole would take care of everyone. Well, it doesn't. It's a trap. Which, I mean, it's quite obvious that was his attitude when you realize that only a few years after that election was won, he goes on to what amounted to primetime television at the time and admits in an interview that, quote, Confederation with Canada was as close to communism as I thought I could get Newfoundland. Yeah. And I think I may have butchered that quote a little bit, but basically, joining Canada was as close as he could get Newfoundland to being communist. And people still teach about this guy as if he's some sort of hero in school here. let's see. I can't take... student of history says I can't take the Giorgio Meloni as a fascist thing seriously after seeing Meloni chant. I know, right? What is the Italian for weeaboo? Student of history asks Prime Night. Sweden is mentioned and he arrives. Oh, LOL, what's up? Oh, it's a Norse thing. Yeah, it's just, yeah. Ginger Norse genetic intercommunication thing. Let's see. Prime Night. It's good, student. Took a break from cleaning and saw the stream. Excellent, thanks. Student of history says nice. Okay, so let's go back to my second screen. So yeah, Giorgia Meloni, which I think this is absolutely hilarious that they call this Fratelli d'Italia and call it Brothers of Italy. That doesn't sound like they're actually Italian. That sounds like they're separated from Italians, but still, feel a sense of brotherhood with them. Shouldn't that be the Brotherhood of Italy? That's what I was thinking when I first saw Fratelli. But just to be sure, let's ask Google. Because, yeah, why not? Okay, it actually okay, it's Brothers of Italy. Well, let's flip that around. What would Brotherhood be? Confraternita. Okay. Understandable enough. Okay, so... let's see. Prime Knight says the Scandi countries should have made the Northern Union, not bothered with the EU. If you ask my opinion, you all should have got together, collaborated, and swept out from Europe south to about the UK and gone, hi, we're back, but we're friendly this time. And then just moved west. East. But, that makes me a bad person, apparently. Student of history says somebody should pull a Diogenes and just yell, behold a fascist, and I'll that picture up. Yes. Featherless biped. Clearly a fascist. Let's see. Okay. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm really starting to hate seeing the word Democrat in pretty much anything. And I'm rapidly coming around almost completely to Spoon's monarchy position. I'm really starting to think that when howdy Kingdom of Finland, nice to see you. I'm really starting to come around to the position that if we're all going to be controlled by a bunch of government noobs, or knobs, depending on how you want to define it, we might as well have as small government as possible, which is the conservative position. So, yeah. Anyway, let's have a look at Miss Meloni, or Signorina. I think that's how it's pronounced in Italy, in Italian. She's been president of the European Conservatives and Reformists Party. They're Eurosceptic, which is nice. Soft Eurosceptic, which is, it's good not to be an extremist. Let's just have a look at this. Oops, where'd that go? That was there. Let's just have a look at these guys real quick. Formerly known as the Alliance of European Conservatives and Reformists, and Alliance of Conservatives and Okay. I wonder why they would stop wanting to call themselves ACRE. Or ACRE. Soft Eurosceptic, European political, main focus on reforming the European Union on the basis of Euro-realism. Is a political position involving criticism of the European Union. European integration ranges from those who oppose some EU and seek reform to those who oppose EU membership altogether. Okay. So there's a breadth of variance in their opinions. She was Councillor of Province of Rome from 1998 to 2002. So, she's got some... Oh, it's post-fascist now. Interesting. Post-fascist and neo-fascist are somehow the same thing. And neo-fascism usually includes ultranationalism, racial supremacy. No, you don't need to be a racist to be a fascist. And you don't need to be a fascist to be a racist. Populism, authoritarian, nativism. Nativism is not necessarily a bad thing. Xenophobia, the irrational fear of the unusual or strange. Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily irrational. But anyway, moving along, we're going to come to Canada now. And I do have a couple of stories down here, but that's the federal stuff. Most recently, Danielle Smith won the United Conservative Party leadership race in the province of Alberta and will be the next Alberta Premier. And if I recall correctly, she is the second female Premier of Alberta. Let's see. I don't think the PC's fielded one. Peter Lougheed, Don Getty. List of premiers. Here we are. Let's just come down here. So Danielle Smith, who is 5 years older than me and looks way better than I do. Jason Kenney, Rachel Notley. Here we are. So this was the NDP knob that was in charge and damn near screwed everything up. So Jason Kenney is the guy who set people off. He's basically, from the way he's presented in the media, Trump light, which isn't really fair. He's closer to a maple-flavored DeSantis. But let's talk about Danielle Smith. She's new Premier Designate leader. Yeah, she announced she garnered enough ranked ballot votes. Now, what is a ranked ballot vote? Let's have a look at that. I'm always curious. Ranked choice voting, instant runoff. So ranked voting, let's trust Wikipedia for some of this stuff. Let's see what's going on in the chat here. Kingdom says howdy, got that. Prime Knight says, yeah, we had a chance in history to be the only country to hold the Baltic Sea. Sigh. Yeah. Let's see. I saw something get hidden again. I'm guessing that was somebody said something a little spicy. Fuck off, YouTube. I hate you when you do that. Kingdom of Vinland. Part of me wonders how one could achieve the ethnocentrist goals of it without the statism. Ethnocentrist goals of fascism, you mean? Student of history has a great comment here. Soft Eurosceptic being the I have concerns position, as opposed to the UKIP statement of, oh, fuck this shit, I'm out. Prime Knight says, thrash the EU government, keep the freedom of movement and trade union. Oh, trash. Okay. I don't know. Caucasian Sasquatch, hi buddy, how you doing? This notification lied. Well, it is YouTube. Let's see. Prime Knight, after some happenings in Europe, xenophobia is reasonable. No, because the problem with that is a phobia is an irrational fear. And I don't think there's anything irrational about being afraid of people with hand grenades. Just randomly blowing themselves up, or you. Let's see. Notification says this is a video upload, not live. That's weird. Shouldn't be a problem for too much longer, because I'm probably going to be ditching Streamlabs soon. Nice set. Thank you. This is the new studio. Yeah. Basically, I just moved some shit around in my room. It is significantly more comfortable to stream this way, though. I used to have my camera under this shelf, and that meant that I kind of felt a little bit claustrophobic. Now I've just got an open room above me, so it feels way better. Plus, I've got my microphone is literally right there. I've got my finger on my microphone. So when I'm talking to camera, I'm talking to the microphone. I've got both my monitors in front of me. No more of this shit. Yeah, I really like it. That's why you're late. Okay, not a big deal. I'm good for another 40 minutes-ish anyway, so. Let's see. Kingdom of Vinland. Yes, the ethnocentric goals of fascism. I know, typo, but fascism, not fascism. The Kardashians have fascism. But without the emphasis on government. Okay, so the ethnocentric goals of fascism, but without the emphasis on government. Yeah, I think I see your point there. It would be kind of hard to have the ethnocentrist goals without the statism. Student of History says NDP, that's your commie party, right? Yes. Yeah, Labour and NDP are basically the same thing. Labour in Britain, NDP in Canada, AOC in the States, Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I'm thinking a lot of people will probably like that flag as well, Sasquatch. I know I certainly do. Let's see. Ideal would be a constitutional republic like what the U.S. originally was, and the ethnocentric goals of fascism. I'm not necessarily in favor of favoring one race over another, which is why I'm anti-affirmative action, of course. But there is a degree of realistic approach that has to be taken. Kingdom of Vinland says he thinks monarchy and fascism might work well together. In a sense, monarchy is sort of soft fascism. Like, a monarch does not have direct control of anything, ideally. They have what amounts to veto power over pretty much everything. I guess that's a constitutional monarchy as opposed to an absolute one. But then again, in an absolute as well, they would probably have... I mean, no one person is going to be in control of everything. So if a monarch wants to keep government small, they pretty much have to hold a loose set of reins. Student of History says my flag is based on lead-pilled. Yes, I attempted to tack it up with a couple of freedom seeds. Unfortunately, drywall is not capable of sustaining fire. Sasquatch says we had an emperor of the U.S. once. Wait, what? I know there was a push for Washington to become king at some point, but I've never heard of this. Let me see here. Monarchy and fascism might go well together. I don't think a monarchy and fascism really count as the same thing, because in fascism you have a total dictatorship, whereas with an absolute monarchy, the difference being that the dictator does not necessarily have a vested interest in seeing the country do well. He has an interest in only his own interests. Whereas with a monarch, because their progeny will inherit the country, you have much more skin in the game, so to speak. Callum Dayton, hi. He says, hail all. What's happening? Taking a break from a little workout. Just talking about the new fascists. Student of History 3, this GS that unify people, common history, common blood, and common enemies. The U.S. needs to focus on common history or make the HRE look like a functional time period. The Holy Roman Empire. Sasquatch says he was a moderately wealthy guy in Kansas, I think. He sent letters notifying the governors of states and the president of assuming the mantle of emperor. Oh, what a fucking Chad. I gotta go look for this guy. Emperor of the United States. I have got to find this guy. This is an interesting story. Emperor Norton? Is that right? Joshua Abraham Norton? Let me know if that's the right guy. Yeah. Sasquatch. While we're doing that, I'm going to go... Oops, I accidentally closed something. And I don't think I need to show you guys pictures of that. So I'm going to close a few links here now, just to have some of that out of the way. I'll bring Danielle Smith back up. Okay. So, it took English. It took until the 6th and final ballot for Smith to get a majority of the votes. Now, we were talking earlier about first past the post. How, in that system, and I do apologize for slipping slightly into the Newfoundland accent there. Hopefully you guys can still understand me. I don't think I'm talking too fast. If I am, I suggest putting me on 0.75 on the replay. But this... ranked ballot vote, this strikes me as a far better way to choose a national leader. Because what you end up with is, as I mentioned with the Joe Citizen example earlier with the first past the post system, You can have as few as 21% of the populace vote for someone, and they can still end up winning. That is a massive majority of people who didn't want that person in charge. Okay, student of history confirms, and Sasquatch confirms. Joshua Norton. Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk about this guy afterwards. But before we get to that, excuse me. Show. Primed, if you happen to see a message come up that says being held or whatever, just show everything. If you happen to spot a sex bot, just kill it with fire. Let's see. Kingdom of Inland, Sasquatch. Okay. Student of history says 3 things. Okay, I understand now. It was 3 things that unify people: common history, common blood, common enemies. History and blood and enemies can be boiled down to a single word: culture. We're all unified by a single culture. Here in North America, and England and Australia, a few other places, it's the Western Enlightenment culture, which can be occasionally misinterpreted to be non-Christian, which is stupid. Let's see. Sasquatch says he was a moderately wealthy guy in Kansas, I think. Sent letters. Okay, saw that. Then moved to California, drew his own money. Some of his notes are still in a few places as art. I will definitely have to have a look at this guy. This guy sounds awesome. Kingdom of Inland. I'd rather have a constitutional monarchy than an absolute one because it is, in my opinion, too big a threat for the king to become a tyrant. Yes, but in an absolute monarchy, one person has the authority. And if one person is to blame, then one person is to blame. Which generally means, if a guillotine gets rolled down the street, that guy's going to go, oh fuck, what have I done? Right? Now, granted, probably not, and also at this point, the Asgard podcast would like to point out that it does not encourage violence in any way, either political, interpersonal, or financial. Let's see. Kingdom of Inland says, I think the U.S. should use a proportional representation system rather than the two-party system. Their electoral college system, or your electoral college system, as I recall, is essentially a proportional representation system. Although the two-party system kind of takes some of the teeth out of that. Now, that's assuming I have my stuff right. Let's see. Make sure I got everything from Sasquatch. Yep, the bit about the art. Yeah, Kingdom, there's definitely some debate to be had between constitutional versus absolute. Let's see. Callum Dayton says, to be honest, I don't see much difference between the woke and it's not fascism, it's fascism. There's an S in there. Fascism is what the Kardashians have. But there really isn't much difference between the woke and fascism or racism or any number of other isms, because they essentially, you could even call it a pseudo-religious theocracy. Okay. Callum Dayton almost had that hidden. Okay, so it's the swear words. I'm going to have to go into my filters and just tell YouTube, I don't care what anybody says. You can say whatever the fuck you want on my podcast. This is also part of the reason I'm looking at Rumble. I'd really rather be able to stream to both, so that's part of the reason that the Streamlabs is probably going to end up going. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Callum Dayton continues, apart from time, honesty, and the levels of useful morons proclaiming either. Yeah. And fascism is definitely the religion of the useful moron. Prime Knight says, yes, mon capitan. Thanks, Q. Student of history, sexbots delenda est. I like it. Yeah, definitely. Callum Dayton says, enemy of Britain, France, and Europe. Okay, enemies of Britain are France and Europe. I think if the British were to mobilize, go into France, and clear out all the interloping violence, sort of people, you know, after you clean your own house, I don't think you guys would be unwelcome in France. There'd still be a certain level of kind of the Canadian-American banter play back and forth, but yeah, I think if the UK were to go to France's help, or France's aid in some of this stuff, I think you guys would end up discovering a lot of similarities. I mean, you both like cheese, you both like wine. You really need to teach the French how to make fish and chips. And it would be nice if you got some Quebecers in there to teach you all how to make poutine. Fascismos, yeah. Caucasian Sasquatch, I looked at Rumble, not happy using my address. Oh, you had to put your physical address in for Rumble? Yeah, I wouldn't be happy about that either. Kingdom of Inland student of history, I think the blood stuff would work a lot better if the U.S. wasn't being white erased since the 60s. Yeah, one of the problems with the whole common blood thing is that up until about 60, 70 years ago, that would work because most racial groups were fairly insular. In the wake of things like the League of Nations, the United Nations, the Second World War, the hippie movement, the beatnik movement, things like that, where everyone was preaching open love and tolerance. Yeah, that sort of separation has kind of faded. And that's why I generally don't use the term anti-white. I tend to use the term anti-Western. My focus is culture rather than race. Now, student of history says he's off to the local anti-Romanian festival. I will, in fact, explain. Okay, you have a good day, student. Earlier in the chat, student of history was one of the first comments that got hidden by YouTube. And what he had said was that he was off to the Fuck Romania festival. At which point I went, well, why did that get hidden? And then I realized it was because it was F. It was the slur, not the slur, sorry, the profanity. So he's actually going to a garlic festival, and he's just making a joke about Romanians all being vampires. So screw you, V, apparently. And if someone shows this to V, go ahead. Hi, V. Nice to see you. Thanks for watching my stuff. Send me a sub. Let's see here. Sasquatch says signing over distribution to a single platform is sus too. There are options on Rumble. I've never signed an exclusive distribution deal with anybody, whether it's YouTube, Rumble, whatever. I want, just put my face back here. I intend to keep control of my personal, my intellectual property, no matter what it is. Unless it's something like, say, the poetry I read, for example, which is out of copyright and public domain anyway. Specifically chosen because it's public domain. Let's see, what else have we got going on here? Prime Knight says, rebuild the Angevin Kingdom. Trying to remember the Angevins. Possibly. I don't know that period of history that well either. Callan Dayton says, no, we like beer. France likes wine. Only Upper Britain has a thing for wine. Well, I'm pretty sure if you get into a bar in France, you'll hear the word beer a lot. Prime Knight says V is running for his life. Yes, I'm absolutely certain my tiny little 127 sub channel has now terrified V to no end, and he is, I don't know, screaming for an exterminatus or something. I don't know. I'm not a Warhammer guy. Let's see. Calvin Dayton says his only experience with Blood Talk is Tick's videos covering National Socialist ideology and me looking at Britain with all the Celts, Norse, Romans, Franks, Germans. Well, yeah, there you go. If you're going to talk about common blood, the only really common blood is human. We don't really have a lot of other options there. Let's see here. Callum Dayton says he's more about culture than blood ties. Yeah, as I am. Angevin was the time England and France was almost one nation under the family of Aquitaine. Okay. Yeah, okay. I kind of vaguely remember that. Callum Dayton, if you need someone to talk about Warhammer stuff, ask me. Oh God, no, I'm not a Tiaboo, and I don't want to be one. I'm interested in it from a lore perspective because there's so much lore. But let's see. Kingdom of Vinland. If the U.S. joined the Central Powers in World War I or stayed actually neutral because there wouldn't have been any Nazis and no Soviet Union. Kingdom. I missed something there. Oh, there we are. Yeah, he said the blood stuff would work a lot better if the U.S. wasn't being white erased. For most of the U.S.'s history was vastly majority white. Yeah, and, you know, the culture at the time is the real issue there. Let me see here. Central Powers World War I state actually neutral. Caucasian says, so are the Tau an expanding culture? Okay, so Callum and the Sasquatch are going have just formed a friendship, and we've come to the conclusion that the Tau are a slowly expanding empire of woke commies. And I think Callum may have misinterpreted Sasquatch's comment that we can be friends he can be friends with the Tau. I'm fairly certain that the Sasquatch is not a big fan of commies or the wokeness. Fairly certain, being willing to bet my soul on it. Anyway, back to the rest of the show here. So Danielle Smith has won the UCP leadership. What that means is that Alberta is going fascist. Well, no, it's conservative. Actual conservatives. It is a bit more of a reform conservative sort of thing, so they're a little more Kingdom of Vinland says, without blood you can't have the culture. I disagree. You can't build a culture. In the past, at the very least, you couldn't have built a culture without some form of integrated connection to a community of some fashion. In that case, very much it would have been blood. Nowadays, I like to believe that people would be more inclined to philosophical connection. Ow. Sorry, banged my elbow. Let's see here. Prime Knight says his Imperial Knight household sees the Tau as insects to be eradicated. Okay, that's just turning into a Tiaboo chat. You guys have fun. I'm going back to the news. Daniel Smith said it was a new chapter in the Alberta story. It's time for Alberta to take its place as a senior partner to build a strong and unified Canada. Yeah, Alberta is basically the resource engine of this country, and has been for a very long time. Callum Dayton says, the Gauls became part of the Roman Empire, and the Greeks very different cultures to the Italian bread-eating noses. Okay. And Kingdom is recommending a 40k lore channel called Oculus Imperia. I'll actually write that down, because occasionally I find myself with nothing to watch, and I've been rewatching some of the old MCU stuff, and that's starting to get kind of tired. Oh, culture meant blood. Okay. Anyway, moving along. More fascism. Pierre Poilievre has won the leadership of the Federal Conservative Party here in Canada. Not my favorite politician in Canada, but I'm a Maxime Bernier guy through and through. I want to see the People's Party succeed. I think Pierre is not as bad a career politician sort as, say, Andrew Scheer. Unfortunately, he did trot Andrew Scheer out on He did trot Andrew Scheer out on the campaign trail with him. Student of History says there's a line at the coffee shop, so he's back for a minute. Okay. Nothing with pumpkin spice. I'll take your man card. Oh, speaking of pumpkin spice, so my local grocery store, which is in a tiny, tiny traditional town, decided that it wanted to sell fresh made, which it's not, it's actually imported from the next province over, pumpkin spice sausages, breakfast sausages. I followed that up with 3 statements. What the fuck? And I happened to go grocery shopping yesterday. I saw these in the if flavored hazelnut. Yeah, hazelnut's a good flavor. Mocha. I like chocolate. Vanilla in coffee is not bad. But pumpkin spice, I mean, that's there's a pie, and that's it. Just have the pie. None of this anywhere else. But so I'm walking through the meat section, looking for steak or pork chops. Excuse me very thoroughly. And I spot these pumpkin spice sausages, and I'm like, why would anyone buy these? What is wrong with... And I do this, and I literally look just slightly to the side. There's another flavor of sausage. It says basil, which, okay, I like basil. Basil, however you pronounce it. It's an Italian thing. But before that, it says strawberry. Strawberry, basil, sausages. 3 more words. Fuck right off. No. That's just weird. In any case, Poilievre being the leader of the Conservative Party, it's not necessarily a bad deal. I would prefer him over Trudeau. I pretty much prefer anybody over Trudeau at this point, with the possible exception of, say, Jagmeet Singh. Pork and fruit, ooh. Yeah, exactly. Oh no, Callum, the 3 statements were what period, the period, fuck period, or question mark. At the coffee shop, hazelnut only. Student of History says that's weirder than the garlic ice cream that supposedly exists. Yeah, some folks are weird. Yeah, I mean, I love bacon and I love ice cream, but I'm not eating bacon ice cream. Sasquatch says, while culture was derived through heritage in the past, in modern America blood is very strong, but there's little heritage in our various cultures, seems more geographically induced. Yeah, there's something to be said for that as well. There's definitely a student of history says he prefers Basil II. If I remember correctly, wasn't that one of the Holy Roman Emperors? I may have that wrong, but I think. And yes, Sasquatch, culture seems to be geographically derived in general in all of history. For example, Newfoundland has a specific sort of geography that gave rise to a specific sort of Newfoundland culture. In the Nordic countries, Finland, Sweden, there's a specific sort of geography. There's a specific sort of culture that takes advantage and has to ameliorate the disadvantages of that particular geography. For example, sitting in a sauna and diving naked into the snow. Sounds like something one should try at least once in one's life. And Sasquatch points out the effects of the location do carry through family. Yeah, because if geography gives rise to culture, culture is carried through the blood. So, in no small term, I mean, culture and blood are essentially the same, but they both tend to come from the same area, or from the same geography. So, Pliny the Younger. No. Now you guys are getting outside of my my realm of expertise. I've got about 15 minutes left. Wow. Okay, so, yeah, I would rather Maxime Bernier were in charge of Canada, but if we're going to get rid of Trudeau and Poilievre is the chance to do it, and look, he's a pretty young guy. Let's see if I can get a decent picture of him somewhere. Oh, God, sorry. I support him. Southern Poverty Law Center. Oh, yeah. Apparently, Poilievre's... can I get a decent looking picture of Poilievre here? want to see what you guys... Show you what he looks like. No? Okay. We can kill this one. We'll come back to Mr. Norton in a second. So, this is Pierre Poilievre. He's pretty, which is good, because Trudeau is pretty, and that's how he got in. On the upside, he's also married to a singer, and, I mean, if you've watched his YouTube channel at all, like, clearly this woman loves him, so that's a good sign. That smug grin is probably a bit much. I like this Photoshop, though. I thought this was quite entertaining. And this is a Photoshop. I don't think they've ever been this close to each other. And certainly not with that particular look in Trudeau's eyes. But, yeah, apparently Poilievre came under fire because on his YouTube videos, he's got a tag, MGTOW. So, maybe slightly more base than even I thought he was. I see Chad is having a grand time. I'll pop over and cover with that in a second here. Let me see. While I'm at it, though, I'm going to go around the horn here. That one. There we go. And I'll leave you with Emperor Norton to have a look at. So, just to let me just minimize this again. Put me back. Okay, so just to summarize the whole reason for this stream's topic. They're not fascists. They're traditional conservatives. You know, what we used to call conservatives. As opposed to what the left would like us to call conservatives, which is fascist fundamentalist freaks. Or fascist fundamentalists, which we're not. I mean, I'm even conservative compared to me when I was 12. Or me when I was 22. Or me when I was 32, for that matter. But the way the left is drumming themselves up into a hysteria over this, this is why I said the left needs to relax in the subtitle. A fascist is someone who wants total control of everything. Conservatives don't want total control. If anything, conservatives want to be left alone to do their own thing, which is what the left should want, but refuses. Oh, got an eyelash. But refuses to let anyone else do. What drives them to this collectivist uniformity sort of thing is weird to me. I mean, the left when I was a kid was, oh no, everyone's their own thing, everyone should be themselves, seek your own identity, fine. But now we're seeing that horseshoe might be a real deal because, or the Ouroboros is eating its own tail, take your pick on the metaphors, but the people who used to say everyone should be their own individual are now saying, no, you have to be like everyone else who wants to be an individual. Huh? The left has become the voice of conformity. And the conservative is now the voice going, too much conformity is a bad thing. What? Anyway, before we go back to Emperor Norton here, let me zip through the pork and fruit. Ugh. Yeah, I'm absolutely with you there, Prime Knight. To a point. If I'm making pork chops, I will occasionally use cranberry juice. This is actually cranberry, blueberry, and grape, I think, in here. And some apple. And watered down because I find those flavors are very strong. But generally what I'll do, if I'm frying pork chops and I want to make a nice sort of glaze for them while they're frying, I'll use some sort of fruit juice. Generally not a citrus because I have an issue with citrus. And generally not apple because I'm not a big fan of the flavor of apple. But blueberry, if you can find it, a blueberry nectar or cranberry blueberry cocktail. I try to find something that doesn't have added sugar and doesn't have sweeteners. That's what this stuff is. It's 100% juice. It's just the juice and water. And, I mean, pour a few, a few spoonfuls of that in if you want. Once the fat starts to come out of your pork chops, I mean, the flavor of that is really good. It goes well with like a savory pasta too. Let's see, Pliny the Younger. Okay, Prime Knight says he's half finished, loves a sauna, haven't done ice bath in a long time. I don't know that I would like to do an ice bath, but that whole walking out of a sauna, diving naked into the snow thing, I could get behind that. That sounds fun. Especially if I can get out of the snow right away. Geography stuff does play much into this talk of heritage, culture, and blood. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, nothing exists in a vacuum. And, like the idea that the left has with progress. Well, progress doesn't exist in a vacuum either. Like, your progressive ideas are going to lead to consequences. You know, that meme of, oh, look, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions. Right? And one of the consequences we're seeing is children are being assaulted. Asians are being assaulted. The society is breaking down because everyone has been told you have to form your own identity. But then they're also being told that if you're part of this group, you have to have this identity. And this is all coming from the left over the course of my lifetime. Weird and disturbing. But who knows? In 20 years, it may have flipped again, and the polarity may be completely different again, and I may very well go back to being a leftist. Don't bet on it. But excuse me. Oh, student of history says Basil II was Byzantine. He had an interesting nickname. Callum Dayton is asking, how quick do you do things? Prime Knight. How quickly do you... Oh, gods. It's a pun! Istanbul was once Constantinople. Carl von Bolt. Hi, Carl. Nice to see you. I don't know if you've been in before. And if you have, I apologize. And if you haven't, welcome. Excuse me. Sasquatch says, much love, red pills for breakfast. Speaking of breakfast, yeah, okay. I hope you had something good, Sasquatch. Student of history says, retake and reaffirm Constantinople with Hikanatoy jamming. Okay, now you've got me searching something else. Hikanatoy? Sometimes Latinized as Hikanatai. This. Oh, an elite guard unit. Okay. I don't know if you guys can hear that siren, but suddenly I feel like I'm on the Lotus Eaters podcast. Let's see. Callum Dayton says the left is in this paradigm of the state, nation, whatever, must be strong in order to be free, and they can't break the cycle. No. The left has far too many people who want to abolish borders involved to be pro-state or pro-patria in any way. The left is attempting to absolutely, completely granulate everyone to make us all individuals and isolate us, while also demanding that anyone who belongs to a specific group think only one way about things because they're part of that group. I think a good way to put it is to kind of compare it to the immigration systems or immigration philosophies of Canada and the US. In Canada, we call ourselves a cultural mosaic, where, you know, someone from somewhere else comes in, keeps their culture, but they join the society, which works very well in places like England and Sweden, clearly. Whereas in the US, there's a cultural melting pot, where you come in, you become an American, but hey, if you've got something nice to offer from the old country, let's hear it. That's how you get things like fusion cuisine, for instance. Tex-Mex, things like that. Let me see here. Yeah, I don't think the left is trying to have a strong nation. What they're trying to do is to say everyone should be against the state and the state should be for everyone. It doesn't work that way. You want a state that's going to be on your side when you need it, and the fuck out of your way when you don't. But the left wants the state involved at every single moment. Let's see. Student of History says, coffee runs done, off to the vampire inoculation station. Enjoy the day, all. Okay, you have a good day, student. Prime Knight says, instead of many paths with a common goal, the left now is a one-lane trench. Yeah, essentially. Yeah. Might be more accurate to call it a cattle... oh, gods. What's that term? When you funnel cattle into a slaughterhouse? Well, you get the idea. Anyway, since I had the opportunity and forgot, I'll zip around the around the horn here. So on Twitter, nothing for mentions and nothing for notifications. On Parler, no notifications. On Minds, no notifications. On MeWe, no notifications. On Getter, nothing recent. And over on Gab, again, nothing recent. Nothing since July. Oh no, September. Okay. So we can close that. Okay. Let's go have a look at Emperor Norton here. Joshua Abraham Norton, known as Emperor Norton, was a resident of San Francisco, who in 1859 proclaimed himself Norton I, Emperor of the United States. In 1863, after Napoleon III invaded Mexico, he took the secondary title of Protector of Mexico. I had no idea Napoleon III had invaded Mexico. But then again, this is a period of history that I'm not particularly familiar with. Born in England, spent much of his early life in South Africa. Left Cape Town around 1845, arrived in Boston via Liverpool. This guy was a world traveler. First few years after arriving, he made a successful living as a commodities trader and real estate speculator. Became one of the richest citizens. However, he was financially ruined following a failed bid to corner the rice market during a shortage, prompted by a famine in China. Yeah, it was a mistake. Okay. He tried to corner the market and then ended up being run around. Disappeared from the scene, dramatically reset his relationship to the world around him in September 1859, when he declared himself Emperor of the United States. Oh, God. Had no formal political power, nevertheless he was treated deferentially in San Francisco, and currency issued in his name was honored in the establishments that he frequented. Oh, that's fucking glorious. Some considered him insane or eccentric. Yeah, no doubt. Citizens of San Francisco celebrated his imperial presence and his proclamations, such as his order that the United States Congress be dissolved by force, and his numerous decrees calling for the construction of a bridge and tunnel crossing San Francisco Bay to connect San Francisco with Oakland. Didn't they actually do that eventually? Though he received many favors from the city, merchants also capitalized on his notoriety by selling souvenirs bearing his name. San Francisco lived off the Emperor Norton. Norton's biographer, William Jorj, wrote, "Not Norton off of San Francisco." On January 8th, 1880, Norton collapsed at the corner of California and DuPont, which is now Grant, streets, and died before he could be given medical treatment. According to the San Francisco Chronicle, over 10,000 people lined the streets of San Francisco to pay him homage at his funeral. He has been immortalized as the basis of characters in the literature of Mark Twain, Robert Louis Stevenson, Christopher Moore, Morris, and Rene Goscinny, or Goscinny. I'm not sure. That's a French name, so I'll go with Goscinny. Yeah, they're French. Selma Lagerlof, Neil Gaiman, really? And Charles Bukowski. Ah, cool. Let me see. I want to have a look at some of these. Okay. I want to have a look at some of these currency notes that were issued in his name. See what we can find here. How Corsican was he? No idea. Here's one. I like this. Let's have a look at this. Oh, it's a gold crown. Oh, hit the wrong button there. Open image. Let's have a look at this. A little closer here. Let me know if this is too big to be comfortable for you guys. 1953 this was issued. Oh, that's interesting. I'm guessing this is probably a replica. 1 gold crown by imperial decree. Signum Imperiale Norton Primus, I think is the Latin for that. Emperor of the United States, Protector of Mexico. God, what a Chad this guy was. Okay, so I'm going to leave that for... Callum Dayton asks, have I seen the video you pinged me on Sultans Discord? If you pinged it to me this morning, no. If you pinged it to me yesterday, possibly. Usually Sultans is the first Discord I check when I get up in the mornings. So, anyway, folks, I'm going to be leaving that there. Let's just bring me back up. That is absolutely glorious. I've got to print that off because I've absolutely got to save that, or copy the image address. I'm going to have to do an image search for that and just see if I can find a really high quality one of those, and I'm going to be posting it right there because that's hilarious. No matches. Okay. Let's try Control V and search by image. Oh, okay. Image link. There we go. It's very rare that I actually bother with Google for most of these things. Anyway, so that's going to be it for me today. Thank you very much for being here. That image search returns some interesting results too if you guys are looking for something to do for a few minutes. Yeah. In any case, thank you very much for being here on my first day back. Well, technically my second day back, but my first stream back. In about 2.5, 3 hours, I will be appearing on Christopher Everard's channel, which reminds me, actually, if I'm going to do that, if I'm going to shill, I might as well shill properly. So let's get that up. Actually, I think I already had YouTube up somewhere else. There's me live. Let's go with Christopher Everard's channel. Oh, of course. YouTube has too many people named Everard. Okay, I actually found the link I was looking for. Copy link address. There we are. Okay, so in about 2.5, 3 hours, Control V, I will be appearing on Christopher Everard's channel to do an interview mainly about woodworking. But we'll be talking about a few other things as well. I'll be avoiding politics in general. But other than that, amazingly enough, I got no warnings today from Streamlabs, which is nice. It's unfortunate that Streamlabs is about to find itself out of a job when it comes to working for me, but what are you going to do? Let's go with find image source. Okay, so yeah, so there's the interview later. Starting Wednesday coming at noon, I will be doing premieres of poetry readings. So the poetry has already been read, thumbnails have been done, everything is ready to go, and I will simply be sitting in chat. Any criticisms, anything like that, I will completely ignore, because that's what I do. But yeah, I'll join you guys for the premiere. Generally, it's only going to be about a minute or two that it takes for me to read these things. If you've been particularly eagle-eyed during this, you will have actually caught a hint for one of my upcoming projects. Take it easy, Callum. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. And thanks to all of you guys for being here. So, at this point, I think it's just as well for me to sign off. So, have a good day. I hope you continue to have good days. And rise again.